Today, I have a very special treat for you. I spoke with Mary Jo Rapini, who is a certified psychotherapist specialized in love, sex, and intimacy, and she will teach you why adult content will destroy your life. Enjoy. What's the problem when it comes to pornography and men?
Okay, well, I think one of the big problems is it distorts a normal relationship, and it puts pressure on a normal relationship or any concept of that to not be effective for men especially. And if it's not effective for men, if men can't be part of a normal relationship because of their porn use, then it's going to affect their partner, and they're going to end up being rejected, feeling like, they don't have what it takes, feeling like this person, these people, two people can't get desire together, they can't love each other. And I think it's the end of the relationship. I think porn is actually counter to any semblance of a healthy relationship.
Okay. And what about single men who use pornography? How do you think pornography is impacting their lives?
Well, the biggest problem I'm seeing is I work with a urologist at the Baylor College of Medicine, and we refer each other patients, and the patients he refers me are usually men in their early 20s, and they're not able to achieve an erection. And not only are they not able to achieve an erection on their own, they're not able to achieve an erection with their partner or anybody they're potentially dating who they'd like to have intimacy with. And so this leads to embarrassment. It leads to shock. The guy is feeling really bad. It makes their confidence go down. It makes both people's confidence go down. And it takes a toll on men's self-esteem.
How do you think porn is impacting men's self-esteem? Or because personally, from my personal experience, I can totally agree with you that porn impacted my self-esteem. But at the end of the day, I'm only one guy. But what about the general male population who constantly consumes pornography? How do you think, or why do you think pornography hurts men's self-esteem?
Well, let's talk about how porn starts. For most porn users, anybody who is watching porn or using it as a way of releasing anxiety, which is what it becomes, most people they happen to view it, and the ages we have now are between the ages of 8 and 13. That's when 80% of all boys are exposed to it. May not be they were looking for it, but a friend of a friend had it and they were exposed. It only takes 2 exposures for the brain chemistry to begin changing. By the way, brother, if you're deeply struggling with your addiction to adult content, today I want to introduce you to Covenant Eyes, which is the world's best adult content blocker. I love that Covenant Eyes is currently helping millions of men around the globe to quit this addiction. And fortunately for you, I've partnered with Covenant Eyes, and today I want to give you access to it for free. Simply click the first link in the description and use the promo code IMPROVEMENT when signing up to your free trial to Covenant Eyes. And the brain changes with endorphins, and basically what happens is when you get that stimuli, you have a big increase in your endorphins, which makes you feel good. But after that, there's a huge fall. And so if the brain starts creating this repetitive pattern where you need it, if you don't get it, you're in the fall part, and you feel terrible about yourself, you feel terrible about your relationships, whatever's going on about your sexuality, about your masculinity, until you view it again. And it's usually men's typical way is to watch it in private and masturbate at the same time. And so masturbation even begins failing without the use of those prompters. And the prompters are the cues that you're watching porn. It's unreal because the variety that pornography affords you is vast. And we know that with testosterone, testosterone is a hormone that seeks variety. It has like a tunnel vision. It needs that. And that's why many men have trouble committing anyway. Well, porn users, they cannot commit to anything because their brain is so distorted with this change. And men try to generalize what they learn on porn into healthy relationships, but because of the porn acts, they're not real. And to a partner, they're not seen as lovemaking, they're seen as performance. And only if you're after recreation sex will a performance be worthwhile. If you're into loving someone and being vulnerable and intimate, then it's not about the performance at all. It's good you can have an erection, but outside of that, they're looking for the tender way and the way you make them feel special and loved.
I completely agree with you. In fact, I don't know if you're aware of an organization that's called Fight the New Drug.
What is it called?
Fight as in a fight, the new drug as in drug.
Oh, okay.
They are all about quitting pornography, and one of its main slogans is "Porn kills love." And it reminds me of one of the things that you said that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understood something along the lines of that pornography completely separates the emotional component of healthy sexual relationships.
Yes.
Why is it? And why does pornography do that? And why is it important to have emotions attached to sex?
Well, the way it does it is because your brain is set up to want to respond to endorphins. And the endorphins, it's almost like the perfect storm. Testosterone gives who's ever on testosterone, which is usually men, it basically gives a tunnel vision. It wants variety, and it also wants to move. It wants impulsivity. It wants to move now, and it also wants to feel good. And so if you think about it, when you get endorphins, you feel all those things. It's just that in a loving relationship, the variety, you learn to oversee that for this loving person. But with porn, because you're really turning into an addict, it's the same as the 12 steps for alcoholics, for drug users, for gamblers, for any other kind of addict. The way they become an addict is they numb to the emotional. The drug, the hit, helps them numb. And the reason they're getting the hit of pornography is to calm their anxiety down in between the endorphins. After the endorphin is at the peak, then it starts going down, and that presents as very anxious. And so, like if a guy who was addicted to porn tried to have a normal relationship, and if he could achieve an erection, which he may not be able to do, he would have a hard time with a real person because it wouldn't be fast enough. It wouldn't be variable enough, and they wouldn't have the types of actions, the very impulsive, different kinds of just deviant forms almost of sex that are not a turn on. They're only a turn on if you're high on endorphins. Okay. And with sex, with real sex, you're high on oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone. And that is nowhere near anything in porn. Porn doesn't give you a bonding feeling. It gives you a feeling of performance, doing it, so you can get the endorphins you need.
Brother, today I want to give you 2 free gifts. First is my free video on the top 10 tips to quit adult content, and the second are my free affirmations that will teach you how to be more disciplined with less effort. You can get access to both of these free gifts with the link in the description. Enjoy, brother. And I have a question along those lines. So I have a theory that maybe the widespread, not only use, but availability of pornography has impacted, let's say, the culture of casual sex What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I think it definitely has. Anytime I'm about healthy relationships. And so recreation sex is not really part of my brand. Like when people say have casual sex, I call that recreational sex. And to me, I think sex is very sacred. What gives it its sacredness and its covenant or value is the fact that you're sharing this with one person. And that allows you to get very deep, philosophically, spiritually, and intimately with one person. But if you're addicted to porn, that would frighten you because you're only going for the brain chemistry is telling you you're spending too long here. Move on, more. And it's that drive, but it's not because necessarily the person wants that. Most porn addicts I counsel are miserable. They're depressed, they're anxious, they have no self-esteem, no confidence. They're not attractive at all when you first meet them, because what we need to feel sexually interested in someone is a level of confidence. And most porn addicts are not confident. They're only confident if they'll be able to pull your hair, throw you on the floor, have several of you in line for the rest of the day. And that's already the addict's approach. So with pornography, you are an addict. You cannot love because the only thing you love is your next person who's going to give you that hit, that drug of endorphin. And so that's going to be the screen.
I completely
They get crazy when you take their phones away. Like one of these exercises when I work with them is, okay, everybody who has a phone, we're collecting them and we're going to keep them up here. It's almost impossible. And then if they give you their phone, they'll say, well, I need my watch. And I'm like, no, can't have your watch either. Like you have to get naked if you're going to be in here of all those devices that could turn the addiction. But they will go through DTs in a sense. They're very awful. They're nasty when they're not getting their drug. They're very depleted. They're very anxious. They're very worried. They are not nice people. They're irritable. All of those things. Breaking this habit is really a rough thing.
I would like to touch on the fact that, or to ask you, what do you consider pornography?
I think pornography is anything you're ashamed to share. Anything you see on the screen that you would be ashamed to share.
Okay.
Because from the first exposure, when children see pornography, it could be a naked women on screen. Well, you can watch a TV show and see naked bodies or bodies with panties, but that's the first exposure. And Fernando, if I can go back, sex in the way of porn is not a basic need. In fact, sex isn't a basic human need. What's the human need is a connection of intimacy. On Maslow's laws, that we will die without that. We could just stop having sex and nothing would happen. You could masturbate or you don't need that. I have a lot of couples that have sexless marriages. They don't need it. And once you become an addict, it's not at all about like a food addiction. People will say this is so difficult because the body needs food. But I say, but your addiction, that's not true because nobody gets addicted to carrots and peas. And the reason is your addiction has more to do with the fatty, sugary, creamy foods. And those are your triggers, or Doritos or Cheetos. It's all the stuff that has the bad components, the toxins, and they'll just eat masses. It's very much in line with a porn addiction. Like no human naturally needs to look at 200 different women screwing each other. Like, you don't see that, and it's distorting to the mind. But the more, the more this addiction goes on, the higher the need for bigger and bigger and bigger stuff. So where you used to be able to masturbate and feel good, maybe after you saw two women making love or screwing, now it takes hundreds, and they have to be screwing each other in really deviant ways. So you create in your own brain chemistry the monster, and the monster determines how hard it's going to be to let go, to break the cycle. Because if you've been using porn for a long time, the monster just keeps growing, and you're feeding the machine. Like, the more you watch the screen, then you become the feeder of the monster.
Completely.
That's the best analogy I can think to describe it.
You describe pornography as anything that a man would be ashamed to share that he watches on his electronic device. In that line, would you consider Instagram, not the whole app, but maybe how Instagram models and most women who sexualize themselves in order to get maybe male validation or maybe OnlyFans subscribers a problem? Or I don't know if problem, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just think that goes back to self-respect for me. Like, I think pornography has many social aspects. And one of the things is you no longer respect yourself as a man. Because if you respected yourself as a man, and you liked and you respected that you had a good character, lots of integrity, that would add shame to what you're doing. So I think I'm kind of getting off base, but I think it's those things that make it so difficult for men to deal with their pornography habit. When women start showing pieces of their cleavage or their breasts and their booty, what they're saying is, I'm not trying to flaunt myself in front of men. This is the person I like. I don't think so. I think this is the person that you want attention for, but I think it shows a lack of respect for yourself. Because if you really like yourself, then you're going to protect yourself, and you're going to want to save those parts for somebody really special. And that's kind of, I think it is a form of porn, although I don't think society looks at that as a way of porn. I think society looks more at that like, well, they just want followers, or they're influencers, or they're proud of their body. But when you're really proud and confident of your body, you don't need to do that. You just don't need to, because you're secure in who you are. Yeah. And you don't, like, they're the very same people that complain that all men are dogs. But let's face it, who is the real dog? If you flaunt a bare naked body and you're upset that some guy was attracted by that and wanted to be with you because of that, then it only makes sense that that was the consequence you had for doing that action. If you really wanted to find a good man, put a respectful picture of yourself out there, there will be less likes, there will be less views, but the man who does like it will be a better potential mate or partner.
I completely agree with you. And back when I needed to quit porn, I watched a TED Talk from Gary Wilson. He has an amazing book called Your Brain on Porn. And he talks about, interestingly, of course, he refers to porn because that's like the main thing, porn, but he refers to porn as artificial sexual stimulation. And he refers to artificial sexual stimulation as anything that would excite your brain in the same way that porn does. For example, Instagram models, dating apps, of course, pornography.
I've seen some of my clients' dating apps, and they actually sound like a person, like a call person. Like you're not really trying to date somebody, you want to sleep with somebody. Because if you weren't, why would you say this and put this photo up? You're going to attract, and then they get upset. Oh, I have so many guys that want to go out with me. And I'm like, they don't want to go, they're not going to treat you. They don't want to go out with you. They want to have sex with you.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing.
Yes, it sure is. So yeah, I just think we know in our minds, I think on a personal level, we know when we look at something, if we're sexually attracted to it, if we start feeling like it's a trigger, and it's those things you have to stay away from. Or especially if you have a porn addiction. There's some movies, love-making movies, I find very erotic, but it doesn't mean it embraces the part of getting to know someone and intimacy. It doesn't embrace porn or make it casual or separate like that.
I hope you liked this first part of the interview, and remember that you can get your free access to Covenant Eyes and your 2 free gifts by simply clicking the links in the description of this video. Stay tuned for the second part of this interview.